Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Latched podcast. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the podcast is a podcast for the mothers and the caretakers in the trenches of raising tiny little humans. Today, we are going to talk about finding yourself in motherhood.
You're listening to Latched Mama Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Wirt, busy mom of 6 and owner of LatchedMama.com. Join us each week as we talk about pregnancy, breastfeeding, postpartum, and all things motherhood.
Hi, friend.
Hi.
I don't know. I feel like we're a little low energy today. It's a Thursday.
It's just been a very busy week.
It's a very busy day.
Our brains are a little drawn in direction.
But we're going to bring this back to one of the topics that we talk about a lot. We challenge each other on this, I feel like, sometimes when talking about, like, when you have a baby, you become a new person, which we've talked about multiple times, and I don't feel like that's under debate at all. But we tend to lose ourselves a bit, especially in those early years, especially in the first year, I think, especially when you're not sleeping very well and that baby just needs you all the time. But then eventually they start to get older, which does happen for those of you who are like deep in the trenches. They need you less. They'll go to other people. And you can start figuring out who you are and what brings you joy and all of the things in life that we all need to be happy, healthy, functioning human beings and mothers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we wanted to talk a little bit, just kind of inspire you guys to go out and find those things, talk about a little bit of the things that have been in our lives over the years that have helped us get there. Although I think we're both still very much a work in progress. I think every mother everywhere is a work in progress in terms of a human being, probably in terms of finding who you are and what brings you joy and all of that stuff. But
yeah. Do you have a little list of things or something on your mind that you did prior to being a mom that you enjoyed? And
I mean, I think that there are like little things and then there's big things. So I think we need to be careful that we're not like just throwing out our big things right now. I mean, I have 6 kids, but my youngest is also 2. 2 is completely different than 1, and 1 is completely different than like 2 to 3 months old. So I can talk a little bit about what I remember, those little things that I remember doing in the immediate postpartum that started to make me feel a little bit more like myself, and the things that I knew that spurred some joy. And then what actually it looks like now, knowing that I'm done having a family and knowing that like those nights of not enough sleep and stuff like that are behind me for the most part right now. But like in the immediate postpartum, I remember like right after I had Nathan, who was my first, I remember going for a walk like 2 to 3 days postpartum. And that was like something that I needed to remind myself that I could still move my body and things like that. And that I wasn't going to be glued to the house forever. Yeah. So something as simple as that, I think, brought me joy. And then it moved to being able to make dinner. And that's always been my thing. My thing has always been being in the kitchen, making food, and it just brings me, it's not necessarily like gourmet meals, but it just brings me a lot of joy to put a meal together, to dance in the kitchen with my family. And I actually like know that things are okay and like the world is spinning correctly and the world is aligned when I am like dancing to T Swift with my daughter in the kitchen while I make dinner. So that's like one of my things that makes me feel like a lot of joy, that if I find time to do, I know that I'm going to feel like more balanced and stuff. I don't know. Do you have things?
I was trying to think back because I feel like we had kind of different times prior to being a mom. But I always liked to do something pretty creative. Either if it was around the house, but it generally involved fabric or sewing or something like that. And there were definitely like years where didn't do any of that. So that's always something that I keep trying to come back to, and there'll be like months where I'm on the computer so much and I kind of like, I need to go and do something creative with my hands with fabric on like a dress form versus just changing a pattern or something like that. So, there's that. I really do. I mean, reading is a great thing for me as well. And I'll often put it aside because there's not a whole lot of time. I've always only had maybe 1 or 2 close friends, but that social connection, whether it's a lunch or something like that, but once you're kind of in the throw of kids, all of that goes out the window.
Absolutely.
It's interesting. I like to cook, but it's not my favorite thing right now. I'm going to blame my kids, which I probably
It's
should
okay.
blame.
It doesn't have to be the same
No, but
thing.
I should probably blame myself. But anyways, there's no blame. But I've got a dairy girl who's allergic.
Yeah.
So swear it like knocks out so many things.
Yeah.
I really don't know how to cook with like other
Doesn't
non-dairy
matter.
options.
Yeah.
But then I've just got some like just some little a-holes right now that are like, I don't want that. And I'm like, but you like tacos. They're like, well, I know I like it, but I don't want that tonight.
Yeah,
And
well,
I'm like, oh my gosh, like, ah.
I very much cook for me. So like these things, you're
I'm
going
getting
into
there.
like the kid
I
category
made-
here. This is the stuff for you.
I made some great chicken last night, and it was like chopped up zucchini, and it had some like red pesto. Like it was really, really good. And I'm like, you don't like it? Go find something to
Yes,
eat. Like
that is the place.
Yeah, but I have learned the whole music thing.
So important.
If people are in the kitchen or if I'm in the kitchen,
Yes.
holy moly, does music make
everything
better?
Everything better.
Yeah.
Everything better.
So I 100% agree there. So,
yeah, no, I've found that music can increase my patience quite a bit. Find a good playlist, make a good playlist. Don't like censor your playlist. Put anything on it and everything on it. I mean, I guess if you don't want to swear words around your kids, that's one thing. But yeah, I highly recommend something like that. Even stuff that reminds you of who you were before you had kids or your favorite song. As long as it doesn't make you feel too sad. I mean, that's stuff that I think can kind of bring you back and remind you of like who you are and what brings you joy. I sometimes turn to science a bit. Like I sometimes like when I'm in a really big funk or I'm like really in the trenches with the kids and I can't seem to get anything right, I turn towards the things that I know like chemically will help, like endorphins or like getting outside or forest bathing or caffeine or a glass of wine or, the little things that, some of those things on the list were much healthier than other things. But, finding the things that I know can kind of help me chill out or, I don't know.
Yeah. A big thing for me is leaving the house.
100%.
I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be like for 4 to 5 days, but that's probably not going to happen a whole lot. And there's some science behind that. But I think us as moms, like we come home and we see all the things. We see the tangible things that need to be done. We see the intangible things. We see all of it.
Yep.
And it can often be a weight. Some of it I truly enjoy. I mean, the emotions with your kids and relationships and things like that. But it's heavy and it's hard and it's not easy and it takes up all that space in your brain. And when you can go for a walk or you know, grab a lunch with a friend or something where you're not looking at that kitchen, you're not looking at that living room, you're not looking at the mess or the things you need to do or the things you forgot to do, it truly helps me. So getting outside.
I would say the last, 8 months I've been doing a ton of research for the book about just connection and how it feeds our souls and what it does and stuff. And, I want to double down on your like lunch with a friend or a walk with a friend. Like there is nothing literally scientifically that we need more in life than
And hey,
connection.
that lunch can be really awkward and quiet and, like that's totally okay. Just had to throw that in.
But yeah, and it doesn't have to be your spouse either. Like that's a whole nother thing is like, don't feel like there's like some sort of hierarchy where it goes like kid, spouse, friends. Like there are going to be times where like your kids and your spouse aren't going to be able to make that, like have that connection fix that you need. And it needs to be somebody outside of all of this. Maybe somebody from your past life who reminds you of those times where things lit your soul on fire that were like nothing having to do with your current life. We were just talking to Lauren. She was headed out and I pried a little bit about where she was going because I get scared when people leave in the middle of the day sometimes. Sorry guys, one of my business owner fears. But anyways, she was going to meet with one of her old, I don't know if it was a professor or somebody, with something that she studied prior to working here and becoming a mom. And it was something that literally lives in this little part of her brain and it brings her like excitement. And I think she said that it intellectually stimulated her, which was really
and
freaking
she really likes
cool.
that. Yeah.
And it was so nice to hear the excitement in her voice and a side of her that I don't normally get to see as her boss, where she was like, I'm doing this and I feel confident enough to do it. I was like, you just reached out to them? She goes, yeah, I haven't talked to them in 10 years and I did it. And there was so much pride in like what I had, because when you watch somebody like become a mother and then come back, because she came to us right after her first child was born and then she had a second one. And I think he's probably 2-ish, a little bit older than that now at this point. There. So she's kind of in that same stage I'm in, but watching her start to find those things again in life, it was a really cool thing, probably inspired a little bit about what we're talking about today. But I
just love it because all those people in those times have played a part in your journey. I think a couple years I actually reached out because I didn't know what to do with some like old swatches and stuff. Yeah. And I donated them like downtown at school. So like I met up with an old professor, like things like that.
And it was probably a really cool
and it was
thing.
really neat. And it takes you back and makes you think about that time and what you learned and struggles and all the good things too. So
I remember I saw one of my old colleagues at a meeting. Eric works for a land developer, and so sometimes my old world kind of collides with his current world. But she was like my sales manager right before I left to have my first baby. So right before like my entire life, changed like drastically. And it was so cool. Like I didn't know whether to cry or to laugh. And we just like talked and we talked and we talked. And like suddenly I was back in this world that I'm very happy that I'm not in anymore. But remembering like all of these trips to the Bahamas and Vegas and all of these sales contests and just crazy moments and customers and all of this stuff. And it was really, really cool. But it's the same thing as like kind of going back and dropping off old swatches or finding old people and, connecting. I guess the other piece of advice that I would give that I have learned is that don't stretch it too far. So like after college, before I had babies, so I played field hockey in college. I started coaching a little bit and I love coaching. Like it was like something that brought me so much joy, and I'm sure it will again in my life. But every season, now that I have Caroline, who is old enough to play field hockey, the person that I coached with who runs the whole kind of field hockey organization, she always reaches out and she's like, is Caroline going to play? And the next question always is, can I count on you to coach? And oh my God, I want to. Like, I want to. I want to go up to the high school and I want to coach, because it literally does not work with my life right now. I need like one more year or something. Yeah. Like, because nobody helps us on the weekend. So it's 6 kids. It's 5 kids playing soccer every Saturday. It'll be 6 kids next year playing soccer every Saturday. I have no idea how it would work. It's evenings. It's evenings away from the family. It's then not being able to make dinner, which I know absolutely brings me joy. Will coaching a bunch of other little kids bring me joy, or will it like raise my sensory shit up to thousands, and am I going to come home angry? I have no idea. My sure thing right now is dancing in the kitchen and making dinner. So but it's all of these juggling pieces of, are you ready to move back to some of that old stuff that was you, or do you need to stay where you're at?
And one thing for me, some of these things that you used to do and you kind of know how much time it took you, I look at my schedule and I'm like, I don't have an hour. I don't have 2 hours. Yeah. But it's like, you know what? I have 20 minutes. And so I think we've talked about this before, whether it's for like moving your body or something. And like I attribute to past with workouts and training and sports and performance and all that. And I mean, you spent a good amount of time, and I'm like, well, I don't have the time to do it. Yeah. I'm like, but no, I do. Like, even just going for a walk for 15 minutes. Yeah. Like I have 15 minutes. I can, do something, or if it's a book, or if it's reading, or if it's calling a friend or something like that. There's always that little bit of time you can take.
And I think that we can't overestimate like the impact that little things can make as well. So like, even if you don't make a physical list, because sometimes I'm into physical lists, sometimes I'm into mental lists, but have those things where, hey, I have 20 minutes. What can I do in 20 minutes? Hey, I have an hour. Holy cow. My afternoon totally just was freed up because my in-laws are coming over and taking my kids. What can I do that I know is going to bring me joy? Because what's really, really cool about motherhood is most of the time when you fill your cup, it automatically gets overflowed to other places. So I know like when Lindy and I hang out, or I hang out with a friend, or I don't know, my emotional stuff feels like it's kind of nice and flat or happy. I know I'm a much better partner, and I will come into that kitchen and I will kiss my husband and I will like be so appreciative for my life and everything. And it's so weird how those things are so important, and we can waste the 20 minutes by, you know, I don't know, sweeping the kitchen. I mean, maybe a clean kitchen makes you happy, but, or like doing the things on our list, or we really, really can spend some time figuring out what those like true soul things are that fill us up.
Yeah. You should try to figure out the field hockey.
No,
even if it's like
I can't commit
a little
like,
bit.
That's the whole thing. Like, I can't even commit to like even just putting a vacation on the calendar is heavy and hard for me. Like, I still haven't reached that point where I don't get filled with anxiety and dread when I put something on the calendar and like allow myself to look forward to it. I recently put something on the calendar that was 4 weeks out that I'm so looking forward to, but every time I start to like look forward to it and plan about it, my brain goes to the fact of, how are you going to keep the kids well? How are you going to make sure everything's okay? How do you know you're going to be free that evening to do those plans? Like, I can't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many moving pieces. So I really just have to take it a day at a time. But I think that the big takeaway is spend some time figuring out you. Away from the kids, figure out and look at it with no judgment. If your happiness is going to Target, then go to Target. I remember that was the first thing I ever did when I had help with the kids. So I had Claire who would come over, and she came over for 45 minutes when I had 2 little boys. And I remember the first time she came, I sat in the driveway in my car, and I had no idea what I was supposed to do. No clue. And it was the beginning days of Latched Mama. I ever thought it would be what it is now. But I knew I was supposed to be working on the business, but I also knew I couldn't be creative without actually like being able to breathe. And at that point I couldn't breathe. I had like 2 under 2. And I went to Target, and I remember like immediately like being free of kids, like for the first time in like a year and a half, 20 months, 22 months, 23 months, who the hell knows? Like literally taking a deep breath for the first time. Like, I still remember exactly where I was standing in our Target the first time I realized I had no kids with us. And like my breath was actually like deep and slow and like, holy moly. It's crazy. So if you haven't felt that experience yet, please go make it happen. Like, it doesn't need to be, ask your parents to come over. Hopefully you guys have a village of some sort. Start building one, and get that break and find you, because you're still in there. Yeah.
It's a very unique feeling. I remember exactly which parking spot it was where I parked. It was in front of the playground when Amelia and Estelle started 2 days a week preschool. So it was just 2 days a week. And I sat there and I just...
So you had nobody?
For 3 hours.
Okay.
It was just the weirdest feeling. And of course, I probably had like a million things to do. And I was working at that time because they were 3. So like, I don't know, but I was sitting there staring at this playground, and I'm like, and I didn't know. It was very relaxing feeling, but also like very weird and very confused. Like, I didn't know, because I didn't know who I was. You know, you lose yourself and things like that. So, but yeah, it's very, very, very weird. But I would say just do something. Just go to Target, take the walk, just pick so something and do it.
Still in there. Like, we work so hard every day to like keep moving, and then all of a sudden things stop. I mean, it's very similar to what we were talking about at the beginning of therapy. Like, when you all of a sudden stop, and there's this person who's going to make you talk about yourself, but no, you don't have to talk about your kids or work or whatever. But at some point it stops, and you're like, oh, holy shit. There's like me inside of me, and I have needs, and I have desires, and I have wants, and I have things that I need to make happen in my life, and things that have happened to me that I haven't processed, because it's so easy to run from thing to thing to thing, and person to person to person, and just take care of people and achieve and all of this stuff. So, but it catches up to you. That's the moral of the story. You know, like, you can't run away from who you are, and you're still in there after kids. So try to make a list. I feel like that's the takeaway, is like, make a list of like the things you can do in 15 minutes, and the things you can do in an hour, and then the things you can do when you miraculously have a half a day or something that bring you joy. Because what's really cool is it's really not that selfish. It actually goes and
I was just gonna say, I bet half of those things won't even really be for you or about you, you're going to end up benefiting somebody else.
Absolutely.
Connect with a friend, or
But I feel like
go and
that's
serve, or give something.
that's
So
how life works. We're all just kind of connected.
yes.
Cool. All right. Bye, guys.